the behavior.
Okay, we are now going to call this meeting to order at 4:17. Let's do a roll call, roll fast.
Director Short,
I'm here.
Director Altman,
Here.
Director Roberts,
Here.
Director Schlong,
Here.
Chairman Borges.
I am here. Okay, now if you'll join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on. Item number 2, we'll open it up for public comment. If there is any out there. Seeing none, is there any online? No? Then we will move on to item number 3, the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Could you pull the votes?
Public comment.
Oh, there is none.
Director Altman,
Yes.
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Schlong,
Yes.
Chairman Borges.
Yes. Okay. Moving on, item number 4. We will adopt, we're looking to adopt Resolution 2023-24-05 approving the RCTA's Conflict of Interest Code.
Thank you, Chair Borges. I'd like to introduce our attorney, Catherine Groves, who's joining us through the magic of Zoom this afternoon, and she wanted to just briefly present this item and get to a little FaceTime with you guys. Because as you know, she's in our unique model. She'll be the person that you turn to in a few months when our contract is up for potential extension. So that's where, so it's an all the more reason for you to meet her. So Catherine, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. So this item, I want to just provide a little bit of background on it. So this is a result of the Political Reform Act of 1974, which was passed in response to Watergate. That law does a variety of different things, including prohibiting public officials from making or participating in making government decisions which have a reasonably foreseeable material effect on their economic interests. It also is the law that requires public officials to file statements of economic interest, those Form 700s. And it requires public agencies to adopt conflict of interest codes. The proposed conflict of interest code that's before you today follows the California Fair Political Practices Commission regulations, and it outlines designated positions that must file Form 700s. The board of directors and the executive director are what we call 87-200 filers, and you have to file Form 700 at the broadest disclosure category, so that's why you're not listed as designated positions, but instead are in a category of your own. These Form 700s are really important for reminding public officials of their financial interests so that they can avoid accidentally violating the Political Reform Act, and they also assist the public in oversight of public agencies. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Their staff is now recommending that the board adopt this conflict of interest code. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bring it to the board. Is there any questions?
No questions, but I'll move to adopt.
So we have a motion to adopt. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any public comment on this? Okay, with a motion and a second, let's pull the votes.
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Schlong,
Yes.
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Altman,
Yes.
Chairman Borges.
Yes. Great. Item number 5, we are adopting Resolution 2023-24-06, authorizing budget transfer request moving funds between line items.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Borges. This item is the second one we brought to you at the end of the last fiscal year, or regarding the end of the fiscal year 22-23. As explained in the prior time, the county's budget approach, the county auditor is our financial arm. They help us pay bills and hold our funds. They also have the control over our budget to the extent that their interpretation is no one line item can ever go over at all, versus, sometimes it's at a cost center level or a departmental level or whatnot. So with the interpretation that no line item can ever go over, you can imagine it's going to make it, we're either going to need to be Nostradamus, or we're going to be ready, or we have to pad the budget, which I choose not to do because it makes things look more negative overall than need be. So what happened is we went over several line items last year, under some others, but we have to correct all the overages. Not a single one can be a penny over. So that's what you have today. And then down into the weeds with what's actually on there this year is mostly the two line items that pay our TransDev First Transit operations partners. They went over here at the very end, and fairly significantly, one by 30,000, one by 50,000, and that's due in large part to last year's, there's some new board members, but when we went into last year, we built the budget and adopted it, a year ago last summer, under the one assumption that we would reduce service in the winter, because we'd pitched that for the first time in the workshop in the spring last year. But when it came down to it, the board, and we decided not to do that last year because we were just rebuilding and trying to recapture ridership after the pandemic. So we went with full service all winter, so that started, so that ended up helping creep in that, these two line items for First Transit's operations contract. That put them under pressure, as well as the multiple engines and transmissions we've had to replace due to the fleet aging in place while we're unable to get new buses due to the bus industry. We've got an order that's been placed for over 2 years ago, and it's probably going to be about 3 before we have the buses, and that's 5 times longer than it used to take. So that's tripped us up. The last new buses we put into service were in 2019, so before the pandemic hit, and then it's been a struggle since. So the vehicles we have now are older, higher mileage, and we can keep them going, but we have to replace engines and transmissions, rear ends, major components that we establish in our contract that RCT will cover. That way, bidders like TransDev are not feeling the pressure to bear that risk, because then they pad their maintenance cost accordingly. So this way we get better costs in the long run, but we face these occasional hiccups when we have to buy an engine. And we went through about 4 of them in the last year. We have 2 more vehicles. I was just in the shop looking at one today, waiting on an engine to come in. So it's a new world we live in as far as maintenance. So that's why these line items went over.
That's for a refurbished engine?
They are, yeah. And transmissions.
So so I'm clear, the budget transfer request, you're reducing costs by 88,000 and then moving those dollars to operation and maintenance, basically?
That's correct. And they were borrowed mostly from the bus purchase line item that never come to fruition because what we just talked about, the bus industry is 3 years backlogged.
Right, and then where will that money come from if you've
We reclaim
depreciated
it.
that?
We reclaim it again each year. So what we didn't spend last year goes into the reserves or gets reclaimed this year, and vice versa. So we budget for the maximum amount of vehicles that could come in. Unfortunately, it's been way less than that.
Okay. And we had $50,000 in engines?
At least, probably more than that. There was probably closer to 100,000 in major component failures in the last year. But we had budgeted for some of that. We just didn't budget for this many because we didn't think there'd be that many. So there's 3 transfer request forms in your attachment in your packet. The first one's a $1,300 one that was just miscoded. It should have been to our CTSA program, and it was instead charged to our CTA program. So that just moves it over, $1,300 to CTSA. Then the other 2 are the main guts of the agenda item. We've got moving 640 from smaller accounts that went slightly over to into these two main ones, 20242 and and then one for 20233 for 159. But the majority of it's on the third one where there's an 88,000 move, or more than half of that was from the bus purchase line item, and more than half of the receiving accounts are that operations and maintenance contract 20242 with Transdev, or 20243, which is the Route 20 portion of that. Both of those needed a little assistance to balance out.
Right. I was just curious why vehicle maintenance would go down if,
Working with the county, they won't change it's not easy to change the numbers or the names of these accounts. So that wasn't really a vehicle maintenance line item. I believe it was bus shelters. The one above it, same thing. We don't pay for the shelters. It's in their contract to repair them as needed. So there was some money in that one that we can move out. And the vehicle maintenance one, I'm not sure what it's even for, but it had some money in it, so this zeroes it out for where the needs are at. All these little ones here had balances, so they were moved across to zero them out and borrow money to the two that needed it.
okay. And then my last question was, what lease maintenance went down by 10,000? Not maintenance, I'm sorry.
Lease expense.
Lease, sorry, I'm
That's a good question.
Lease expense.
Yeah, I don't see how we over budgeted 10 on that either, but I just go by what finance tells us. So, yeah, we have a line item for our ground lease at the fairgrounds, and that has an escalator each year. Yeah, I was surprised too that there was a significant budget in there, but that's what they said.
Can we, when you say they, are you referring to the county?
County auditor, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, their staff is what works with us to get this to you, so they help us manage our budget.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, apparently there was 10,000 extra in there. The whole annual lease is about 25, so it does strikes me as weird that there would have been 10 extra.
Yeah.
I'll check and make sure that they billed properly, because otherwise they'll come back and want money this year for last year. But
Yeah, I would like to have all those answers,
okay.
so we're a little more sure of what our budget is and not having thousands of dollars of surprises,
Yeah.
other than things that you can't control.
Okay, any other questions from the board? No? And so a motion at this time would be appropriate.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-24-06, approving Amendment 2 to RCTA fiscal year 2022-23 budget to modify revenues and expenditures for various line items.
I second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, will you pull the votes?
Director Schlong?
Yes.
Director Short?
Yes.
Director Roberts?
Yes.
Director Altman?
Yes.
Chairman Borges?
Yes. Okay, moving on, item 6, approve multi-year financial audit services engagement with O'Connor's CPAs.
Move to approve. It's basically a name change.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Any public comment? Any comments from the board? Nothing? Could you pull the votes?
Director Roberts?
Yes.
Director Schlong?
Yes.
Director Altman?
Yes.
Director Short?
Yes.
Chairman Borges?
Yes. Okay, item 7, discussion and approval of extending RCTA LCTOP funded free rides program.
And this,
Oh, there we go.
I was just going to introduce Dan Herron's going to present this item if the magic of Zoom is true for us. Dan, go ahead. Can you hear us? Oh, we can't hear you though.
Oh.
Unmute.
Still can't hear you.
Dan, looks like you muted.
There we go. Oh,
Hey, there we go.
There you are.
there he is.
Dan Heron, thanks for the time. The item you've got in front of you is our LC top money. It's really quite useful money, even though it's very small and it changes from time to time. It varies somewhere between 20,000 to 60,000. It's really pretty large there. The money itself, I'll let you read the history, but it is money that we will get every year, provided we've got good projects, and so far we have. It must be used to reduce carbon input, our carbon footprint. What we've used it for before was shelters, which improve our ridership and our display. We've used it for, we're using it right now to bankroll for our electrification project. The biggest use has been for the free bus program. It's been very successful program. The basic idea is you make the bus free to a particular set of clients. It's free to them, but we reimburse the fares out of the LC top money. So it's revenue neutral for the operation itself. Over the years, it's been a big success, particularly with two of our, it started with Redwood, the College of Redwood, but has expanded now to Humboldt State and students, high school and mid school. They're our biggest crew of users for this, but also veterans. At a request of the community, we added veterans to it. Give you the numbers now. We had programmed over $98,000, $98,853 programmed to it. We've drawn down almost all of it. It's about 4,000 to run maybe a month or so here. So this program is ending unless you decide that it makes sense to continue. The charts tend to tell the picture the best, and if you could go on page 5 of your report, you'll see some pie charts that just show that the usage of this, the green part is the students. They have used it more than anybody else in terms of ridership and in terms of fares that they brought in. If you skip two more pages, one more page of form, on page 7, you'll see a breakdown of the time here on students, or I've got them labeled youth here, at 6-month projection, so we can get a few more data points. And veterans ridership. Note the difference. COVID affected this one very much. Veterans weren't affected much by it. Provides a needed service even during COVID. They had to get to the medical appointments and the things for life. So we consider that an important part of this. The total breakout, I think I mentioned the money side of it, but we've had 34,000 people riding this system in the 5 years it has been fairly active. We'd like to continue it another year. Unfortunately, we applied for money months ago. for extending the electrification project. That may not be as needed right now as a portion of our several $1 million project Joe coordinated with other providers on that is going to help build the electrification project. So we have an ability to look at more than one option. We can cut off the program totally and say, okay, from now on, you guys have had a taste of it. If you want to continue, you're going to have to pay for it. Or a couple options of continuing it. Staff is recommending that we go ahead and continue it using TDA funds for this year, and next year apply totally for the free ride program. We expect that to be the best one. There is a fallback option that we might try to change the grant for this year to cover that expense that we don't think we will be needing, particularly this year, for the electrification program. With that, Joe, do you have any comments?
Oh, no, very, very well done. I guess the only thing I would add is that, for the sake of brevity, Dan kind of flew through it, but there was actually, the reason we switched away from the free bus program was Caltrans LC top staff took a stance against funding any project more than like 3 or 4 years. And at that point, we had done 3 years of free bus, and it was building a balance because our ridership wasn't, we were getting more funds in than we needed each year. So hence the balance got up to like 99,000. But then there's since been, that decision by Caltrans was so unpopular statewide that there was legislative action to fix it. So since then, I forget its call number, SB, what is it? It's in our staff report, but there was a legislative fix that requires Caltrans to accept these fare subsidy projects without any term limits or max number of years they'll fund it. So we can go back. What Dan's saying is our option one that we recommend is let's continue this with our local TDA money this year. We know we're going to run out probably by about now because the burn rate's been about 40,000 per year and our ridership is actually growing lately, so it could even be a little higher. That's option one. We recommend that just because we don't really have time to wrestle with Caltrans about this. But option three is we could try to correct last year's allocation and move some money then that way. So it's just, it's going to be staff intensive and painful to do that, but we can try. But either way, we think we should, the recommendation is to keep the program going. It's kind of the heart and soul of our ridership recovery strategy.
Okay, any comments from the board?
I have a couple questions. On your graph chart, are those all Del Norte County?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, because it shows Humboldt and then it says College of the Redwoods, so I wasn't sure if that was College of the Redwoods. Excuse me?
The Humboldt University is residents of Del Norte County that are traveling to
Got you.
other campuses, basically.
Okay, got it, thank you. That was it.
Any
The
other
Humboldt
questions?
threw me.
And in the pie chart where it says students, that means our DNUSD middle school and high school students. So those are students not in college.
Right.
So that's why they're divided out that way.
I'll have to admit, I actually thought he messed up and just put color of red, since it was red. Right. I had to ask, what is color of red?
Yeah.
He explained College of the Redwoods. A little slow, but we got it. Okay, so on this, did it say we were just doing a discussion, or are you looking for?
We're looking for approval to continue direction on what you want to do with the program. So we recommend option one where we keep the program going, the public notices no difference, and then we just backfill we don't have a grant to backfill the fares, we just absorb that loss ourselves this year, and then next year we apply for the money. It's
How much are we going to be absorbing?
probably about 40,000.
40,000. Yeah.
To finish out this year?
Yes. Yeah, we come into the year with about 4,000 balance, and it's about 40 and growing because the program's popular. Ridership is growing right now. We're happy to report. So yeah, at least 40, 45.
And that's just till end of actual year, like end of December?
No, end of June. So
Oh,
that'd be
okay.
fiscal year long.
July.
Yeah. Unless I mean, it's just a staffing level deal. We're part-time, we're doing our best for you, and I know you guys realize that. If you want us to wrestle with Caltrans to try to change some of the old money to this project, it's doable, we think. We don't know how much of a lift it'll be. They can be cooperative when they want to be. So that's option 3 is continue it and try to get our money corrected and changed over, which would probably be better, because if that was successful, then we'd have a grant we'd be able to, at the end of the year, we'd draw from a grant instead of just absorbing the lost fares.
Where would you take the 40,000 from?
Our TDA reserves is where we would have to take it from.
And the balance of that?
Well,
Yes, it also,
go ahead.
it also would be COVID money. COVID is backfilling, and an appropriate use for COVID recovery is building ridership. So this fits right into that. I'm not sure how much would be COVID and how much would be local transportation funds, but it would be 40,000, just about.
And the reserves was a little under $500,000 at last year's audit, but we'll see how that's affected this year. That's also affected by lumpiness if we're delayed getting reimbursement on grants and stuff. But yeah, it was around $500,000 at the last audit point.
So just for clarity, so this, by doing option 1, that'll get us through all the way till June. And we're hoping that the funding for this program comes back then? Or that'll be the end of the project and we have to redo this again?
No, not exactly. So option 1 keeps the program going, no interruption to the public or anything, and it just, we simply avoid the extra headache of trying to coax Caltrans into changing the projects, the old money, and we just take it out of our TDA reserves at the end of the year. Whereas option 3 is the same, except we try to work with Caltrans to change that project. So they could move some, because like Dan, and what Dan touched on is, since we submitted this LC top for one final year of the electric bus project, we had to send that in 3 months ago. Since that happened, we got awarded the TIRSIP money, so we're no longer hurting as much for construction money for the charging of the electric bus charging infrastructure. So that's where we would ask to take it from. It's like, hey, just give us like 40,000 of that, move it over to this other project, and then next year we apply for more. Either way, the intent would be to apply for more. In next year's round, we would apply for the free bus money. Either way, both options. The one's just to try to work with Caltrans to move the money around this year, some of the old money, and see if they'll let us do that. That way we don't have to tap our reserves at home. So that's option 3.
When would we be applying for the grant, and when will we hear if we've gotten the grant?
That's a good question. Dan, did you hear that question from Director Roberts? She was asking, when do we expect the LC top round? Is it always going to be about the same time of year? So it would be next fall?
The action starts in May, but I will say LC Top was rather, the staff was rather astounded by the building momentum behind free bus programs. And they're still sorting it out what to do now so that they can fulfill all the requirements of the legal requirements that have been laid down on them. I thought the legislature says, this needs to be a local position.
Okay. Director Short?
Joe, are you saying on option 3 that it'll be easier to get reimbursed that TDA funding by doing that, what do you call project-to-project transfer request? Is that an easier process for you? It almost sounds like you would favor option 1 and option 3 rather than just option 1 like the report says.
Personally, I would favor option 3 because it gives us a chance to maximize, not leave $1 and then not touch the reserves if we could help it. Dan's just concerned that Caltrans might not be that helpful, and we don't know how much staff time, because he's supposed to be working on other reimbursable grant stuff. So we don't want to get hijacked and get into a long struggle with them about it. So that was just the reason we went with alternative 1, but we're fine with giving it a try. You know, either 1 or 3, we continue the program. 3, we try to do the corrective action submittal and see if we can move the money around so that we would then not touch reserves, which that would be the best case scenario.
So if we don't care about Dan's time,
Yeah.
then we go with 3.
If we don't care about Dan's time, exactly.
Actually, I must say they are the toughest administrative grant that we have. One time we submitted 7 different updates of the allocation request. And your continuous rereading and saying, no, maybe we should do it this other way. Finally, we just kind of said, hey, take it or leave it, tell us that we got the grant or we didn't.
Yeah, this small pot of money comes with a staff that makes you work for it, for sure.
Yeah. I would
They
say if it
do.
were like less than 10,000, you know, that it wouldn't be so bad, but 40,000 is quite a bit. So if we can try, that's what
okay.
I would recommend.
Would option 1 and 3 keep the program going? And would option 3 stop the program?
No, 1 and 3, both keep it going. 3 just direct staff to spend some time with Caltrans, talking them into moving the money around so that we don't have to cover it out of our reserves at the end of this fiscal year. No matter what, I think we have the direction and we love the program. Next year, we apply for the program. It's just like, how do we get through this 1 year where we're running out of money, the old money?
Yeah, thanks.
So if we went with option 3, would we get in a month, 2 months, get a clear answer, hey, they're not working with us, and then we'd bring this back?
Yeah, we can give
the
you an
board?
update. Yeah, we could definitely do that, update you on the
think we should.
progress. And
We could bring it back every time because it is going to take more than 1 month.
Yeah.
No question.
So Dan, is this going to be $30,000 of your time to get $40,000 back? How much time are we talking here?
It won't be that much, I promise you.
Okay.
This will probably be an opportunity lost, let's put it that way. What I do here, I can't do on pumping some other source of funds.
Chair, I move to approve moving forward with option 3 with the caveat that a couple months down the road, if we're still struggling, that we can reconsider.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt option 3. Would you pull the votes?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Altman,
Yes.
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Schlong.
Yes.
Chairman Borges.
Yes. Okay.
all right.
All right, thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Item number 8, discuss and approve of reduced fall, winter, spring service platform effective October 1st, 2023.
All right, thanks. We're going to have to pick up the pace here a little bit. Sorry about that last one, got a little involved. This is the second year we've brought this forward to the board. Last year we decided to, ridership was so down after coming out of the pandemic that we wanted to put our best foot forward and run full service all winter. We did that. This year we're back to this concept of a reduction in service, a modest one for the winter months. So that would be October through May. So from Memorial Day to the end of September each year, we'd have our max service out there because that's when our demand's the highest, especially on the regional routes. So this is that option for you. Some of the information we have anecdotal that we're about 40% higher than last summer. So our recovery is really going well. So that's good news to celebrate. In the next meeting or the one after that, we'll have a full report on last fiscal year's performance. But it's in general going well, and we want to keep piling on and keep building on that. So this reduction would start then at the end of the month. It takes basically one trip out. And I wanted to clarify, because we were talking with staff this morning around the yard, and we do agree with, oh, so let me see what I presented to you guys on Saturday. 2 trips. Okay, so alternative 3, so it'd be alternative 1 is what we're recommending. So that keeps our 5-day-a-week service on the Route 199, but does pull the midday trip out. And the same for Route 20, except it's 6 days per week. So both of them would lose one of their 3 trips a day. So it's still usable. You can go in the early morning, get home in the late afternoon, but it takes away that convenience of doing half-day trips on both of them. But the savings is significant, as you can see. If I can pull up the right deal. Yeah. So the annual revenue hours saved is just under 2,000, about 1,836, and at $50 an hour, which is our marginal cost, which is fuel and labor, it's a savings of about 91,000 for doing this reduction in the winter. And we also, we think in the long run, I mean, like Dan mentioned, we're currently in a weird time. We got this extra pandemic money, but we've also seen our operating costs go crazy high. So I fear that if we don't come up with this kind of approach where we have our max service in the summer, but a little bit less the other 8 months, I think the financial carrying capacity of the agency could be compromised at some point, especially when this one-time money's gone, which probably like 3-4 years from now. So if we can get set up this platform now and get folks used to it, we think it's the best way to go to be fiscally conservative and careful with our budget.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Hey, Joe, when we have talked about this in past years, reducing ridership, or reducing routes during the wintertime, we talked about the effect of ridership. I recall that the 199 route almost had 0 effect because there was very, very few riders. And if I recall right, the same was for the routes in the wintertime going to the south. Is that still the same? Are we still seeing ridership I mean, if we were to implement alternative 1, how's the ridership going to be affected? Do we have the numbers?
Yeah, we do have numbers, and we've had, thank you to Fernando. So our current AVL system's not as good as the one we used to have in that we can't just pull up a report and boom, get ridership numbers by trip like we used to be able to get. But we did have Fernando track this because we knew it was going to come up as a decision point for the board and for staff. So he was tracking it. The Route 199 it struggles, all 3 trips struggle. Right now, they're all about similar ridership, so it's tough to pick one. There's not one that's the worst. So it kind of comes down to, do we want to set up, and that was one of the other options, I think it was 2 or 3, and your thing is we could do 3-day-a-week service with 3 trips, but that, to me, that as a consumer, as a rider, that's even harder to remember. It's like, to me, I'd rather have 5-day-a-week service Monday and late afternoon, and the deal is you just got to do all your errands in town in one day, because you're here, you can't leave until like 4 o'clock. I mean, it's not perfect, but I think the midday trip is the right one to pull. Of the Route 20, the ridership's better on the 20 than the 199, always has been. But the midday one is the newest trip. We introduced that a little bit before the pandemic. It was to allow half-day trips down in Humboldt, and it's been, would you say it does about the same as the other trips, or a little less in the morning run, right?
I'd say it's about 30% less in the morning and the afternoon.
Okay, so it's still, it's kind of the black sheep, but it's not bad. Its productivity's not horrible. We definitely, in the summer, do pretty well with it. But yeah, it's like, we're looking for areas to cut. It's like we're already ending at 6 p.m. locally, so we don't want to go I don't want to end at 5. So yeah, I think this is about the best thing we could pick to reduce for the winter schedule to make us a little more financially sustainable.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I was just going to ask on cutting from 6 to 5 days on Gasky, what day are you going to cut?
Saturday. Yeah, right now it's Monday. In the summer, it's Monday through Saturday. So yeah, I know in all these options, we cut the Saturday because it's simpler to cut. It's one of the things that's not producing really well. That whole route doesn't produce well. It really is a coverage route for us, but I know it's it's a lifeline service to those communities, so we don't want to cut it, but yeah, it doesn't produce very well. I think they were all like in the 2 riders per hour range, so, 2 or 3. We're not doing real good.
And is it?
Oh, yeah, and this year we didn't have the tourists out there as much as we did the last summer or 2 was bolstered by river tourism.
So river tourism boosted it a lot, and the river level prevented them from doing that. So they actually completely canceled that. In the prior years, even with COVID, we had a lot of the rafters going up there, and they had between 12 and 18 rafters that we would actually take down to the river. I don't know if you've ever done the tour where they take rafters and they take them down to the tour where they go up the South Fork and they come down Jet Smith and they end the tour there. But we take them up on the bus and then drop them off at the little rest area there, and then they go down the raft on the little guide there. But we would pick them up Fridays and Saturdays. That was our biggest thing for the summer. We did that for 3 months out of the summer, but they did away with that this summer because of the levels of the river.
When you say they, who are you
The
talking?
National Forest Service.
I didn't know the Parks was doing a little float trip. That's pretty neat.
So, any other questions?
I was just to follow up on my thought. Is Saturday fewer riders than during the week?
Yeah, the only thing holding that together was the rafters.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Any public comment on this? Okay. Seeing none, at this time, a motion for one of the alternatives would be appropriate.
I make a motion that we approve the fall-winter service platform. It was not alternative.
Alternative 1?
It is alternative 1, I'm sorry. It was the last item that we were kicking around, item 3. But alternative 1, thank you.
And I'll second that.
Okay, seeing a motion and a second, we've already done public comment. Would you pull the votes?
Director Altman?
Yes.
Director Schlong?
Yes.
Director Roberts?
Yes.
Director Short?
Yes.
Chairman Borges?
Yes.
Borges?
Okay. Item number 9, discuss and approve CEC Airport Service Area Expansion effective immediately. Joe?
All right, thank you, Chair Borges. This is our last main item here, so we'll try to whip through it. We started the service. I mean, we've been running, when someone would call and ask for a trip to the airport, we've been providing general public airport trips for a long time, but it gained momentum this last few months when we started working collaboratively with the airport manager to promote the service. They were having various challenges with the rental car companies and the taxis for getting folks to and from the airport, so they were really excited to work with us to see if we could help. So we divine with the current with the current air schedule the way it is, it works really well at the start and end of our regular dial-a-ride service. So what we did is just basically use our dial-a-ride service in the early morning to start with airport trips if needed, and then in the late afternoon, early evening for the 7 o'clock flight, we do the same thing. So it works well right on the shoulders of our current dial-a-ride service span. And initially, we started just to use the dial-a-ride service area, which is the Crescent City area, and I apologize. I actually engaged a consultant, but we didn't quite get it fast enough for this board meeting, but we're doing new maps. But the current map, the dial-a-ride service area generally contains the Birch Track, all of Crescent City, a little bit of the areas to the north up as far as like Elk Valley Crossroad. 2 options that are presented to you here. We feel that's a little bit restrictive for this service. It makes sense for the dial-a-ride to be restrictive because we could get run into the ground because that's an unfunded mandate, by the feds. We have to do that. So if we adopted a larger service area for the regular dial-a-ride, there's some risk to that for sure. But for this service, we feel the areas to the north of town that aren't currently in the dial-a-ride service area would be a nice addition. Folks and destinations that might benefit from air service that people fly to or from CEC to get to. So that would be option 1, would be to add on to the north from Elk Valley Crossroads, west of the 101 freeway all the way up to Smith River to the Smith River itself, not the town, but the river. And option 2 would take that further and also add the area east of the 101, which is, your 199 golf course area, to those, so to the eligible areas. And option 1 the highlight would include Pelican Bay. So we have had a couple of requests that have come in for folks that fly in and want to get transportation for visitation. So that's a prize in that zone, and the other zone would probably be more like the Smith River Recreation Area and the Golf Course Country Club area. So that's we recommend we go ahead and do this because the CEC program is a minor part of what we do, but it's really been picking up. I was pleasant, we're booked up this week. We've had, what was that number you told me? In the last 30 days, we've had like 25 or 23 riders to the CEC, so we're getting up near 1 a day, so it's starting to really catch on. I was out marketing it today and putting out flyers in some of the hotels and stuff, and everyone that hears about it seems really jazzed. So it's off to a good start, but we just didn't want the service area to be anything that holds it back.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
Cost? Is there a cost?
No, there's no extra cost. I mean, we don't, it's not a 100% farebox fueled service. So our current, there's no fare items on today's docket, but later this fall, we're going to look at our fares overall. But right now, our general public fare is $5 a head for this. If an ADA eligible person wanted to go, then it would be $1.75. But for everybody else, it's $5 each way, and that's a pretty good deal. And that would stay the same, although we might want to look at that when we look at all the fares soon. Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, if we were transporting 4 or 5 people at a time it would actually probably pay for itself. One at a time, it's not going to quite pay for itself, but we feel it's a gap in the transportation spectrum right now in our area for sure.
What about, so when you say you're going to the airport when the flight arrives, right?
Yeah.
And you're only picking up one person?
The reservations we've been getting have tended to be singles so far. We had one group of 3 today, was it? But usually they've been singles, one person at a time, but there's no
I would imagine,
nothing inducing that.
I would imagine quite a few of those people are local, but I would think that if it were tourists, they would want to go to a hotel.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't have all the data on the O's and D's, the origins and destinations, but yeah, hotels are a lot. That's where we're targeting the marketing for it at. The visitor center, but it also could be from home, like if they don't want to leave their car and park at the airport and just want to catch a ride for $5, it makes plenty of sense for a single. Sure. If they had a family of 4, it'd be a little pricier. But yeah, for singles, it really beats the alternatives for sure.
Okay,
so
thank you.
That's what we've been mostly seeing so far.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Any public comment? Oh, we do have.
It's not on your item, I just wanted to give a heads up here that at 5:30 we have the meeting starting, and it's also like formal items.
We're going to fly through them. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, a motion would be appropriate for one of the options.
We'll make a motion that we approve the expansion of RCTA's airport service and using option number 2.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Would you pull the votes?
Director Roberts?
Yes.
Director Schlong?
Yes.
Director Altman?
Yes.
Director Short?
Yes.
Chairman Borges?
Yes. Okay, item 10, medical service update, Route 20 extension into Eureka Call Center, Southern Oregon Medical Shuttle.
The modified Route 20 into Eureka's been running all summer because we were able to get that in real quick at the start of the summer and approved in June. So that's been doing fairly well. The route as a whole is up 40% over last year. We don't know how much of it all to attribute to the Eureka extension, but anecdotally, people like it for sure. And maybe about 60 or 70% of the people are now riding that used to get off in Arcata because that was the end of the line, are now staying on to go into Eureka. So generally tells me it was a good move. The call center's up. We got it up just a little bit before the fires hit. It is a voice-over internet call system, so we've had a number of issues during the fire emergency. It's been substandard, but we're working on it. The South Oregon shuttle's been off to a very slow start, so that's the one that'll go take folks to, is advanced reservation required to go to Grants Pass, Medford. We have not run that yet, but we have a trip booked for tomorrow. So that's exciting, our first trip with 2 reservations at least. Third person might join, is happening. So the fires really didn't help that one. Our timing is impeccable as always. But the good news is the way we set it up, it doesn't cost us anything because we don't run unless there's at least 2 reservations. So we haven't made any trips and we haven't transported anybody.
And
But
remind
that's
me
gonna
what
change
the
tomorrow.
cost is for that?
It's $10 to Grants Pass and $12 to Medford, one way. So 20 or 24 if you're going round trip.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We're good? Any comments from the board? No? No public comment? So moving on to item number 11, management report, First Transit Project Manager.
You're up first. We switched the line up. Fernando's like, what?
So I'm going to make it short and sweet. We had a issue getting drivers training. As you know, with fires and everything, they commandeered the DMV parking lot in Eureka. Our trainer that we normally have in Oakland is on vacation, so that postponed it. They'll be back next week, so we'll be sending them to Oakland until we can get Eureka back up and running. But other than that, we're on a smooth start to get everybody back up, and these fires didn't stop us from producing our routes, and we're good to go.
Great.
Perfect.
Good
Thank
news.
you.
Anything from the board? No? Thank you, Fernando. Number 12, RCTA's General Manager's Report.
Just wanted to thank Fernando and his team for an amazing job of responsiveness during the emergency. We were down 3 drivers from the Gasky evacuation area, but that was why we did do a reduced service. It's been a crazy month. But yeah, we reduced service to what we could handle. We shut the 199 down. Anyway, if you want all the details, then maybe check the...
You're responsible for shutting the 199 down?
The route, not the road. I knew we were in trouble naming that route after the road. But anyway, so I just wanted to thank everyone for their patience. I didn't want to deluge you guys with everything we were going through, so we did like one update, after about a week or a few days of the emergency. But we just wanted to keep you guys in the loop. So it's been great, and thanks to our local team. They've been amazing. One thing I wanted to report, a little bit of bad news, one of our older 5310 Caltrans grants, we ended up losing a portion of it because I made a mistake and didn't send in a packet for their reapproval again fast enough. This is for the minivan we bought recently. I think you guys approved it in December. It shows up way quicker than we thought it was before I'd sent in the packet to Caltrans because they want to approve every vehicle that you buy. So the packet crossed and they got wind that the title came in before we got it, and they were very upset. So they wouldn't fund that grant, so we paid it out of the last of the PTMISEA. But we did work with them to retain the other because there's two vehicles in that grant. The other one they're mad at because it's been delayed 3 years, and they're angry that we're not spending the money, so we're between a rock and a hard place on that one. But anyway, we were able to explain that, so we retained the larger piece of the grant, and that's for one of the buses that's been on order for over 2 years. But we did lose funding, and we had to pay for it. It worked out good because we were looking for ways to expend the last of that PTMISEA that a different group within Caltrans decided to sunset that program at the end of June. So we just paid for the minivan out of that 100% straight up. Yeah, so that was not good, and I do apologize.
How much was it, Joe?
We lost like 40-some thousand. So it was a $70,000 minivan that we were going to have to pay 25 or 30. Now we paid 70 instead.
So make sure you get that 40,000 from Caltrans.
Yeah.
So cover it up, cover that.
Exactly.
He just made up the 91 by cutting the route, remember?
Yeah.
True.
That's my report.
Okay.
That's my sword I had to fall on.
The movie adjourned.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, but
I was just wondering if you guys did any assisting with the evacuations with the buses.
We were on standby.
Yeah, we were on standby, we were in communication with the EOC, and they chose not to use us for the gas ski one. We had a plan in place, and, yeah, then we had a deal over the weekend where we were gonna help transport some firefighters, and they no-showed us. Anyway, but yeah, so we were ready, available, but not used.
Okay, well, I want to thank you guys for that.
No, thanks, these guys were amazing.
Well, what happened was the school district was in the room, and they stepped up to the plate. They were ready to go in like 20 minutes. They took 6 buses up there immediately, and nobody used them. So, yeah.
Actually, there was about, we sent about 8 or 10 people that did use the buses. There was one bus that took about 8 or 10.
Oh, well, I was in the EOC, and I was told 0 by the superintendent, so,
Thing is, most of the people that live up there
Yeah.
have transportation.
Yeah.
you know?
Okay. So item 13, any
Yeah, we
farther
just said it was
announcements?
zeros. Yeah.
Joe, good? Nothing else? Okay, then I will adjourn this meeting at 5:13, and then we have our next RCTA board meeting will be on Monday, October 30th